Today, I'm speaking with Anthony Ferraro. He has a fascinating, beautiful story. He is a skateboarder, he does judo, he is on Team USA, he's a musician, a podcaster, and that doesn't even cover everything. And to top it all off, he is blind and he is really, really killing it. He has over 240 million views on YouTube, over a million followers on TikTok, and all his social medias are doing amazing. Anthony, so you also have a documentary out. It's called A Shot in the Dark. This is about your kind of quest to be a just renowned wrestler. It's really dope. Anthony has a really dope story. Thanks for being here. So first things first, was wrestling seems like it was kind of your first really big sport. Is that correct?
Yeah, wrestling was at first when I was like a real little kid. I used to play like soccer and basketball and baseball, like all these things in like rec, and it was just because they were including me. It wasn't that I was like ever going to be able to play those sports. Like the pitcher used to come like 2 feet away and pitch to me. One time I hit him in the balls. It was really bad. Um, I used to play soccer. I loved soccer. I always wanted to play football, but my pops was like, Anthony, it's just a little dangerous. You might get blindsided. So football was not
Mm.
in the cards. So I found wrestling through my older brother, who was really, really good at wrestling. My brother Oliver, he took fifth in the state of New Jersey in high school, and my dad was also a really good wrestler. So it kind of made sense to, jump into wrestling, and it's a contact sport, so the blindness wasn't a huge issue because we had to stay in contact when we wrestled. So
Mm.
that was like the one rule adaptation. And I was actually awful when I started. In seventh grade, I went and I was like, I'm going to be so good. I'm going to freaking win all these matches. I only won 2 matches, and one of the wins was a forfeit where you just go and get your hand raised.
Mm.
So it didn't start out too well. But then, I continued training, and I told my dad, like, I want to get good at this sport. And he found me a wrestling club, and this guy Mike Melanconico worked with me like nonstop, all hands on, and teaching me moves and positioning and like a method of training that worked for me. And after going to all these like tournaments over the summer, and just getting as much mat time as I could in eighth grade, I ended up actually going like undefeated. So it was a
Dang.
big jump. Yeah.
Hmm. And a lot of people don't know, but wrestling is a really brutal sport. I remember trying it out a couple times, and after like 1 minute of wrestling somebody, I was exhausted, and I was in pretty good shape. Like I was on the cross country team, running miles and miles. It's like it takes a lot of training to do well at it, and
Yeah,
let alone to be undefeated.
it's like a 6 minute sprint. It's pretty brutal. And but like not only a sprint, you have someone trying to stop you from sprinting, I guess you could
Mm.
say. So it's it is a very grueling what is that? Conditioning sport.
Hmm. Totally. So, in what is interesting to me is you cover a lot of bases here. So, wrestling, judo, you also skateboard, you are a musician. One thing that I thought was really dope, you have a blind busking tour. So, you drive
Yeah.
across the US and you play music. Can you tell us a little about that? I'm a sucker for road trip stories. So, yeah, tell us a little about that.
Absolutely. My wife and I, it was during the pandemic, and at the time, I was just all I was doing was training judo to try and make it to the Paralympics. And then when the world stopped, like you didn't know if you'd ever train again or anything. And it was really a time to like pause and be creative, like in your own
Hmm.
way. And one way I found, like, it was during the election and stuff, and people were just bashing each other. It was so negative and just awful online. And we decided to go, like, because music was the one way I could make people smile in that like dark time. So, and my goal is always just to make people smile or feel good or some sort of inspiration or motivation. And we decided to go on so I was doing these like live streams where I was just playing music. I even started playing on the corner at from where I live. I would play on the corner in town, and that's busking. So busking is like when you play for tips, like on the streets, you know. So I'd play guitar and sing, and we decided like we wanted more out of it, so we took it. We were like, let's just go freaking drive across the country and back, and we did a 10,000 mile 7 week cross country road trip, and we did like a podcast during it. And my wife drove the whole way. It was incredible, and we just live streamed it on Facebook and like live streamed it to the world. And when I say the world, I mean like literally 5 people on Facebook, maybe. And then
Still counts.
we, yeah, it counts. It was amazing though. We set up in all these remote locations across the country where it was like beautiful backdrops, and just trying to like give people, 20, 30 minutes each stop of like, or to an hour of like just live music, and like make people laugh, smile, whatever, feel out of their darkness for a little bit. And when we got back, like all these crazy things happened on it. Like I actually got to drive on the salt flats in Utah. It was incredible. Also drove on a long desert road in Texas for like 5 minutes. So that was really cool. And then we got back and we were like, wow, we could, we actually made a plan, stuck to it, and made it happen. Like obviously not everything goes your way or how you want it to, but you just kind of roll with it and adapt along the way. And we got back and we're like, I wanted more, like in the sense of I wanted to reach more people, because I thought my story was pretty interesting, and that like it could, if it helps one person at the end of the day, it's really all I want. And we decided to make like, for months she was trying to tell me, my wife Kelly, she was like, you should do a dance on TikTok with your cane. It might go viral. And here I am like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Sorry. And I started scrolling through the app and stuff and listening to videos and realized like there's more to it than just dancing. Like there's all these other sub pages and stuff. And I decided like, all right, let me try like introducing myself at least. So I went and introduced myself in a video saying like, hi, I'm Anthony. I'm training on Team USA. I skateboard, blah, blah, like saying all the things I do. And then I was like, oh yeah, and I'm one thing different about me is I'm blind. And then I went to sleep with like 30 followers on TikTok and maybe 100 views on that video. And I woke up and it was like viral with all these messages from like hundreds of people. And it was overwhelming, like just the positive feedback and like what people were saying, and how it was helping them, just me being vulnerable and introducing myself and going out every day just doing these things. So it kind of just snowballed into this like big thing where we just kept making videos daily as much as we could, short form, and it kind of just blew up from there, and like beyond our wildest dreams. So it was really amazing to watch happen.
Like that is sort of that's the type of blowing up story you would see in a movie. I feel like you have 30 followers, you go to bed, you wake up, the video is viral, right? That I feel like that's kind of like Post Malone's story too. He uploads his first music videos, and then all of a sudden, bam! It's when that happens, it's pretty crazy. So your like short form content is kind of your bread and butter still, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I was never like a video person. I never even thought I would ever be in content creation, and then I just kind of fell in love with it.
And do you feel like shorts are like, what is it like being a short form creator? Which I know is kind of a generic question, but like for me, I'm more used to making long form videos. Like, do you feel like there's a something comforting about how brief they are? Like you can just show little snippets of things. Kind of, what is your kind of general philosophy on YouTube Shorts or TikToks, that type of content?
So yes and no, because it is shorter, obviously, and I would love to do more long form, but we learned how to do short form as we went. Like it was all, we didn't really, my wife, Kelly, she edits and films everything. And it was all like a learning curve as we went, just figuring it out along the way, kind of just falling into it. And I'd love to do more long form. It's on my list to do, because I want to give people more and like more of the story. And, I feel comfortable in front of a camera. It doesn't really bother me because I can't see the camera, so it doesn't matter. But the short form is like you have this like 30 seconds to a minute and a half of like how can I tell this story?
Mm.
So it's telling like maybe a longer story within that short time frame. So it's what are the important things here? What's a good hook? How are people gonna laugh? Where's the comedy in it? Where's the real meat of it that people can take from it? Different things like that. So I think um, I'm constantly going through my head like, oh, that's kind of a good idea, or this could work, or that could work, and really trying to like turn ideas on their head and like really make them different and unique in different ways. So, because when we started, there wasn't as many creators, it seemed, and then it got, TikTok and YouTube, Instagram, it got like saturated with reels and shorts and all this stuff. So it has been like, it's a way bigger come up than that you go through these like lulls of like, views being down or, so much other content around. So people, have to pick and choose. And it's really, it can get like in your head, So the key is to just keep creating, keep telling your stories, and keep doing things that you're interested in that, the right people will vibe towards that.
Hey there. You probably know the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com. What is VidChops.com? Well, it is an editing service that will take the horrible burden of editing off your back. We all know video editing. It's tedious. It takes forever. But what if you had a professional who did it for you? You go to sleep, you wake up, it's done. Wouldn't that be magical? VidChops.com. Hire a professional, save yourself time and energy, and take your YouTube channel to the next level. Yeah, for sure. It seems like one nice thing also is with short form content, you can kind of make a lot of videos and you don't necessarily have to overthink them. Whereas it seems like with long form content, there's more maybe pressure like, is this going to perform? Whereas with shorts, you just kind of like, let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. Let's see if this works. And that.
I definitely overthink even shorts though.
Yeah, which I think is a typical problem. Like, I have struggled for sure with overthinking videos. And, I was running a YouTube channel, 2 YouTube channels full time for years, and I still struggle with this problem. So you are not alone in that, believe me.
Yeah.
So, kind of shifting gears here, you train a lot. Like, you're an athlete, obviously. You have a good vibe. I feel like your vibe is very much influenced by kind of all the training and athletics you do, among other things. And I'm kind of wondering, so you started wrestling. Now it seems like judo is more what you focus on. Can you talk about like the difference between those two, like for people who aren't super familiar with fighting, including myself?
Of course. Wrestling was like, it's very much grappling where, you know, it's very fast paced, very like barbaric, I guess you would call it.
Rad.
And when my film came out, A Shot in the Dark, it was the United States Olympic Committee saw it and they reached out to me saying, wrestling's no longer in the Paralympics, which kind of sucks, but judo is, and it's the closest thing to wrestling that's there. Would you consider training in judo to try and compete in the Paralympics? And I said absolutely. And it was like it wasn't too much of a learning curve, but there were some things I had to learn, like how to take a big throw, like how to fall right properly and not like, break your elbows or get dumped on your head, things like that. So it's wrestling, you're in a singlet, which is like the spandex type. Judo, you're in like it's called a gi, so it's like the karate uniform with the belt and everything. And I call it judo wrestling with a jacket on, basically. But it's like it's a lot more gripping, on these like gis, and like it's very high. The throws are huge. Like there's a lot more throwing, high impact throws, and then it also brings in like jujitsu, which is a lot of groundwork. So like arm bars, chokes, and stuff like that. So that was like the big learning curve, learning all those types of moves. I used to do Greco-Roman wrestling, which is very similar to the throws in judo. So that really helped me a lot. But it's a lot about like positioning, using your opponent's momentum against them, reacting to certain positions and things like that. And yeah, it seems to me that judo has more of a chill vibe than wrestling.
Like the
In the
community
sense,
around it or the sport itself or both?
a little bit of both, because it really stems from Japanese culture. So it was invented during the Civil War in Japan when the samurais would lose their weapons, like their swords or something, and then they'd have to do hand to hand combat. So it's actually designed like not to be done on mats. It's actually done to like designed to like kill your opponent, which is crazy. But on the other side, there's a lot of like meditation involved, and a lot more stretching and trying to be more zen, I guess you would say.
Hmm. Yeah, that seems like a good combination of things, like wrestling or not wrestling, but grappling plus some Zen. Like to me, that makes sense why it would be a good vibe. As intense as the samurai were and maybe are, they did seem to have a cool vibe. Especially all the anime I've watched would
Yeah.
would indicate that.
Yeah, I'll be honest
Mhm.
though, like no matter what I've done in my life, like wrestling, judo, all these things, I always feel like an outsider. Like I never feel like I fully fit in, if that makes any sense. But like I'm so I guess out there that like not one mold kind of fits me, if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
I don't feel like, you know, that's me 100% 24/7. Like this is just a part of what I'm doing type of thing. Like there's people, it's almost like a cult, some of these things where like people are really, that's all they do, it's all they know, they only hang out with people in the sport. And I'm very different, where like even in high school, for example, like I hung out with the so-called cool, like popular kids, but I also hung out with like the so-called like nerdy people. And like I love everyone. Like I try to bounce around between every group to really, because you learn from everyone and you just get all these different stories. And it's I love like diversity.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely reflected in your career. I mean, all the different things you do, it's like you're clearly not married to one path
And
or anything at all.
that's another reason why it's hard to like grow as fast as other people, because I'm not so much a niche. Like I'm not niched down to a specific thing. It's so all over the place. Like, today could be judo, next day could be music, next day could be cooking, whatever it is, so like skateboarding. So it's like I kind of have different audiences for each thing, I guess you would say.
Hmm. And this feels like a perfect segue into kind of building a personal brand around all of this. Like you do all these different things. Your wife Kelly is incredibly helpful with the process of this, obviously.
She's
Um,
like everything. Yeah.
yes. So like what is it like combining all of these things into a like one, I mean, brand? Sometimes I hate saying that word, but you are sort of tying this all together under like yourself. And does that feel difficult at times? You said sometimes it feels like your audience is kind of split. Like what is that like, kind of having all of these different skills and showcasing them on your on these different apps and platforms and everything?
It's interesting, and I definitely would. It's building a brand, like a lifestyle brand around yourself, I guess you could call it. ASF Vision like is my brand. Um, and it's fun. I like not being tied to one thing, because, some people blow up as like the reactor to videos, and that's all you can do now, or like you're the chef, so you can only make cook, like people only care about your cooking content, things like
Mhm.
that. So I think it's in short term it can be frustrating, because like I said, like you could not get like the as much virality as you're looking for so often. But in the long term, you're doing what you love, and it reflects on, your brand. So I think it's important to just stay true to yourself and not, put yourself in a box.
I totally agree, especially with YouTube and these kinds of platforms, because it is YouTube. I say that a lot
Yeah,
on this podcast. And I do feel like if you go against who you are and you try to be something you're not, it's not going to work out anyway, and you're going to hate doing it. So it
yeah. Then
just
it's
it
like
doesn't make sense.
VTube.
Yeah, exactly. It's performance tube. It's not really
Yeah,
the same. There's a
yeah.
lack of authenticity.
I definitely confuse the algorithm a lot. That's for sure.
Which I think needs to be done more than perhaps is currently being done a lot on the platform. So I know you have some big plans for 2024. So I was kind of wondering if you could speak to what you are looking at in the future in general.
Oof. Big one is um, I'm having my first child in August, so that's huge. So
Congrats.
thank you so much. So you'll see some. I'm excited to share like being a blind dad, content. Like, this is how I change a diaper. I'm gonna need like a truckload of wipes, different things like that. But just showing people that that's possible. All the misconceptions around it. Um, Also training for these Paralympics. Is a big one. Trying to keep my head in the game because it's a long journey. It's not like just an overnight thing. It's grueling. You have a lot of setbacks. I tore my groin a couple years ago, and that was brutal. So different things like put you out, but doing that, just really building everything that I've been working on. You know, Music. I'd like to put out an album. It's been on my mind for a long time. Also, you know, I've been toying around with one of my dreams lately is to get into professional wrestling like the WWE. So
Oh hell yeah.
just been putting that out there as much as possible. Also trying to, maybe build a team so my wife doesn't have to do so much. It would be really helpful to have like, a camera person or a couple people, like being able to have income where I could support people like that and, you know, just be able to continue to grow and reach more people. Motivational speaking is a huge part of my life. So that's really where I like make money for my family is, I've been doing that for like 10 years. So, motivational speaking to like events, corporate companies, all the way down to like kindergarten up to like high school, college. A lot of that stuff. Anytime I get to speak is I love it. So doing things like that and just continuing to grow in all aspects. Because if you're not growing, I don't know what you're doing.
hmm Yeah, for real. It's life's weird. It just kind of keeps moving forward, and I feel like there's a healthy pressure, hopefully, to like keep growing. And if you're not, then you're kind of just staying the same, getting older.
Yeah.
And for me, that is good motivation. Some days it feels like a lot. Some days I'm on it. So
Yeah.
it
No, I
sort of
feel you.
depends.
Like, you have good days and bad days. It's inevitable.
Yeah, for real. So I guess like what do you like if you're having a bad day? How are some ways you deal with it? Especially kind of being online and having a presence, you have an audience. Sometimes I have found if I'm not in the mood or am kind of struggling, it can be hard to be there like in front of an audience it because there's a camera looking at you and you feel this pressure to smile for the camera but maybe you don't feel like smiling. What are some things you do? Will you not film that day? Will you try to shake it off and then you kind of end up getting in the mood? Or what is your bad day strategies?
No, absolutely. It's a little bit of both, actually. Some days, I think it's really important as a creator. You're constantly trying to um, entertain other people as well. So I think it's really important to take time to yourself and take days off, or else you're just gonna get burnt out and really hate what you're doing. Um, Also, there's some days where it's not so bad, and I'm just like in a mood, and you kind of got to shake it off and
hmm
get in the mood, and then you're like feel better too. So
Yeah.
like, but I think mental health is so important. You know, I'm also spiritual, so I pray a lot. I think praying helps me so much. Just being able to talk with God and things like that. Also, you know, just going through the motions sometimes will help you get there. Like if you wake up and make your bed, you're not going to lay back in it all day. Take a shower and then, you know, brush your teeth and you start to feel a little better. Like get
Hmm.
dressed and, you know, get outside. And I think it's really important just to go through the motions, even if you don't want to. So then at the end of it, you're like, whoa, I did it, you know? And it's like another day down
Hmm.
because, you know, we're not promised tomorrow. So it's really important to enjoy today.
Yeah, for real. Like it could be hard to be appreciative. Like yesterday, I had a bit of an off day, but I feel as the years go on, I'm better at kind of dealing with them. Like anybody can thrive on a good day, but it's the kind of rougher days where that's I feel like in a way those are the best times for growth, right? Because if you can
Yeah,
kind of do what needs to be done, or even just kind of like you said, brush your teeth, take a shower, take care of yourself in the ways that you can. Maybe do the bare minimum that you have to do that day, and then the next day you'll probably feel better.
absolutely.
Hmm. So, what would you say is your like with music? I feel like everybody has kind of a style, a vibe, a goal, a kind of message. Um, what would you say encapsulates that for when you're playing music?
Oh man, I love the blues. It's one of my favorite genres. The blues, I love acoustic guitar as well. I play both. I play in a band and solo acoustic. So in the band I'm playing electric and doing way more like I would call it like Jimi Hendrix slash like Stevie Ray Vaughan style or like you know, a little Grateful Dead mixed in there. But then I love like, you know, solo acoustic like just finger picking. It's really something that people say to me a lot is they love that I will take a song and I don't learn the song note for note, like the solos and all this stuff, and you know exactly how that musician did it. I do my own like interpretation of it, and it's like if you want to listen to the song, go listen to the record. Is kind of my
Hmm.
mindset. So I try to give people something a little different and like how I'm feeling in that song that day. It's never really the same. And I think music is a great way to express yourself and just like, you know, if you're feeling bad that day, sing about it or, you know, make up some words about it. If you're feeling happy, sing about it. You know, music has really helped me through. It's kind of been this like yin and yang balance of like, you know, doing all this like barbaric stuff with the wrestling, judo, skateboarding, all that stuff. Re- Guitar is like a time to just sit back and like kind of get lost and like you really drift away. Um, you get in this like zone of like all you're basically in the music, so nothing else at that point matters. It's very like meditative and spiritual.
Mhm. That I think that's very well put. I do find kind of the best work, or if I'm doing something creative, if I'm flowing with it and I'm in it and there's a lack of self-awareness about it, that always produces kind of not just the best result, but it makes it peaceful and, as you said, spiritual. It's uh that is a beautiful thing about art, I think, that it's possible
Absolutely.
to get in those states of mind, and it's a good reminder of how important they are.
Absolutely.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, next question. You have a documentary, A Shot in the Dark, and it's a few years old now, but it's it's won lots of awards, and it is a killer documentary. It is dope. I'm wondering, like, it's very high production value. It's well put together. Can you talk about the process of like making that? Like, how do you start that process? What does it look like from start to finish, creating and being the center of a documentary?
Absolutely. It started with my older brother Oliver, who I mentioned earlier, who was the wrestler. He saw so in wrestling I dealt with a lot of stuff like because of the constant contact I had to stay in because I'm wrestling sighted people, they would get frustrated and, you know, try and say I had an unfair advantage or I was faking my blindness to get, this upper hand in wrestling, all these like crazy things. And um, my brother was really inspired by how I would go out every day and just kind of live my life and not let those things stop me from doing what I wanted and just working so hard. And he took a little clip, a little sizzle reel of me talking about what it was like to be a blind wrestler, growing up, different adversity, things like that. And my wrestling coach actually posted it. And my brother said, "This is my little brother. I want to make a film about him. If you're a camera operator, producer, anything, please reach out because I don't have all the resources." And uh, someone who saw it was my high school coach's old college teammate, and he's an independent filmmaker. And my brother kind of had a vision to make like a short film, like a short thing. And Chris Sikorsky sat down with him and said, "This is a great story. We got to do something." And they decided to make a full featured length documentary of my senior year. And that's exactly what they did. They, followed me around. Like I said earlier, it's like I couldn't see the cameras, so it didn't bother me too much. They were really good at like staying out of my way or, just capturing everything on their own. And um after my senior year, Chris got all this footage, did all this stuff. My brother was doing a lot of directing of it from California at the time. And then after my senior year in 2013, it kind of got put on the shelf. So for 2 years, like Chris had a kid and my brother bought a house. So like all these things happened. And then in 2015, Chris was like, "I really need to take this down and put it together. Like there's a great story here." And he did that. He put together the first 15 minutes of it and he like was really excited what he had. And he scheduled to meet with my brother to show him. And a day or two before they were supposed to meet, my brother actually he ended up passing away in his sleep at the age of 27,
Oh my
and he
God.
never got to see any of this film, which was really heartbreaking. A lot of this, it was a lot of trauma, a lot of just grief, and it was really heavy moment. It was like the floor got ripped out from under you, like you're just hanging in outer space. You're like, what the hell happens now, type of thing. And I was living in California at the time. I came home to be with my family. And at my brother's funeral, Chris came and he's like, "No matter what it takes, I'm going to finish this film." And he did just that, man. He had like thousands and thousands of hours of footage that he had to go through from all these different cameras that were filming essentially the same stuff and had to pick the best angles. He had to go through, time things up and line it up and tell his story, which he did, which is like it doesn't even feel like a documentary when you watch it. It's like a real like movie. And it was really incredible to see the work and time, that he put in as like a labor of love. And it was just incredible to the outcome. And at the end we needed to raise money for post-production, so we put it on Kickstarter with like a little bit of the backstory of everything. And we put $36,000 as our goal. And with Kickstarter you only have 30 days or else if you don't raise that, your money goes back to everyone.
Mhm.
And we were like, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to raise this. It's a lot of money, and it's not even as much as we actually need. We actually need like double this, but we didn't want to like put that knowing we wouldn't reach it. And within 6 days or 4 days and 6 hours, we reached our goal of 36 grand. And at the end of the month, we ended up raising like $84,000. And it was incredible. Like the trailer went viral, millions of views across platforms, all these people coming in out of nowhere. I didn't know like 75% of these people that were donating and just were so supportive. And then Chris finished it and it was just an incredible product. And then that's how the United States Olympic Committee found me and reached out. One day I'm sitting home kind of feeling sorry for myself. All this stuff happened in life, and watching all this stuff with the film, I'm kind of like, I want to get back after something, like I need a big goal to chase. I feel kind of unfulfilled. I feel lost. I don't feel like I have an identity anymore because I stopped wrestling and all this stuff. And I get a phone call and they're like, "Hello, is this Anthony Ferraro?" I'm like, "Who's this?" And they're like, "It's the Olympic Committee." I'm like, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong number." And they're like, "No, we totally don't. And we saw your film and we we're wondering if you would consider training judo for the Paralympics to try and compete and make it, traveling around the world, trying to compete in all these different competitions to try and make it to the Paralympic Games. And it was kind of like a no-brainer at that point. I said, let me call you right back. And I called Mike Melanconico, the guy from my wrestling club. And I was like, yeah, the United States Olympic Committee just called me about judo. And he's like, why are you still on the phone with me? He's like, go say yes. Like, yes. And I was like, all right. And I did that. And the next couple of years, I trained judo nonstop. I was going around the world to all these competitions and, places like Japan and Brazil and Germany and Azerbaijan, which I never even heard of before I went there. All these countries. And, in like 3 years, I was number one in the country and like top 20 in the world. And I was really close to making it to Tokyo Games. And then the pandemic happened. And then got back on track after things opened back up, and I was, in trajectory to make it to the games. And two competitions before the Paralympic Games for Tokyo, I actually tore my groin like 2 days before leaving for a competition, and it was really brutal. I was out for like 6-7 months, couldn't do anything, and had to like postpone my dream, I guess, and then now after a lot of recovery and just realizing judo isn't my entire life, so diversifying everything in my life, making different paths and having like backup plans, or like not so much backup plans but like other avenues that I was pursuing as well, and found like a healthy balance in training and doing these other things. So now I'm, trying to compete to make it to the 2024 games. And right now I'm ranked like 23rd in the world because I actually got a concussion in my last competition. So I was not able to finish it, but it's just all part of the journey, and there's bumps along the road, and you just got to keep moving forward. So just going to trying to make it to 2024 in Paris, and with an end goal of retiring with judo in 2028 for the United States Los Angeles Games.
Mm-hmm. Right on. That's I like the trajectory there. It seems like you've kind of planned out the future, but it's not too rigid. And I'm glad you've been able to find a balance too. I've definitely heard that being an athlete and dealing with an injury like that can be really rough, especially not just on the body, but like your mind.
Oh yeah.
Your kind of goal has been, you have to sort of set it aside and figure out like how am I going to get back into this? How am I going to find meaning? Like it seems like there's a lot of mental turmoil that goes along with that. So you said that during that time you were able to find more of a healthy balance between kind of training and the rest of your life. So can you talk about what that balance looks like exactly?
Yeah, it's all these other things we're doing, like the content creation is really, it helps because it's like um if I go to this competition and lose, at least I got some good content out of it. But more like the skateboarding, I really fell in love with over the past like 2.5 years. Doing competitions with that, the music, just playing gigs, and spending time with my family, my wife, and my dog. Just really realizing that judo isn't everything. It's not like an end all be all. It's not an end, it's not a means to an end. It's really just it's part of my journey. So realizing, it doesn't define me with the outcome, and trying to have more fun in it, I think is big. Trying to, if it's not fun, some days aren't fun because you're training your butt off and it's really grueling. But if you're really feeling this like, I don't want to do this at all, then it's maybe time to stop doing that. And so that's why maybe I was close to that feeling, but then I was able to really, find other avenues and ways to keep it fun and just keep it a part of my life, not my entire life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, kind of no matter what it is, especially if it's something that you are really passionate about. It can become too grueling or too,
Almost toxic.
yeah, almost toxic. Like it can consume your life too much because it does take a lot of work and discipline, but also the initial reasons for getting into it were more pure than that, perhaps. So, like,
Absolutely.
how do you so clearly having other things in your life that you're able to focus on, whether it's music or content creation or spending time with your family, friends, but like when you're doing judo or training or in a competition, like what do you try to keep in mind? Like, because as you said, sometimes you do have to push through it, and discipline is really important. But then there's this contradiction where it's still like it's important that it's also enjoyable at least enough of the time. So,
Yeah.
how do you like? How does that look in your brain while you're training for judo or in a competition?
I like to be in shape. I get joy out of, I actually get joy out of working so hard. I'm really psycho. I'm like a perfectionist. I'm like, um, I try to be the best at everything I do, not as an ego thing, more as like a self-fulfillment thing. Like I want to strive to be great in whatever avenue I do. Like if I was sewing, I would try to be the best sewer in the world, like things like that. And um I find joy out of working so hard that I could barely like walk out of a workout room, like a wrestling or judo gym. Like I find joy in, you know, the growth in it. Like I really find joy in, climbing these mountains and finding, out things about myself or, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. Or, and it's like work. Like some days are great, some days really suck. So it's understanding that some days are gonna suck too. But you just gotta, it's like we said earlier, you gotta kind of go through the motions and get through it to get to that next day to where you'll feel a little better about what you've done. Um, yeah, pretty much that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it there. It's a lot of it's like a weird contradiction, the kind of fun and discipline, and you could apply this to I think anything that is like I said, kind of a passion project. Do you feel like that spills over into YouTube or TikTok as well, where it's supposed to be fun, but it's also hard, and there's days where it's like, man, is this working or am I working with it? Like, do you feel kind of no matter what it is that you can apply the same philosophical principles to judo, to music, to TikTok and YouTube, to anything?
Absolutely. And you know, you have to remember like sometimes I'll be like, oh, this is a great video, like I love this video, it's gonna crush. And then it does like a couple thousand views and you're like, well, that wasn't what I expected.
Hmm.
Um, it can be pretty like daunting, but you have to realize like your views don't define you as a human being, and it doesn't define your self-worth or your value. So it's easier said than done because you really do get in this mindset of like, oh, I guess no one cares, or am I becoming irrelevant, or whatever it might be. And then, your next video gets like a million views that you thought would not do well at all. And you're like, what is going on? So it's like, it's not you. It's really like the algorithms. It's these computers that kind of pick and choose. And you just gotta, like I said, stay true to yourself and like make the things that you love and that you enjoy doing. Um, or if it's something you don't want to do, it's like, let me make a video out of this at least. Like today, I was just a bunch of dishes, and I was like, oh, well, I can make a video, make doing the dishes. So like, like it's having fun when it's just making life fun. I guess you gotta have a good time.
Yeah, and it's so important to be able to do that and kind of flow with things when possible, and push through when necessary. So, like now that you have been in this for years, like you have a really interesting kind of unique path that you're taking. Like what is your like the thing you're looking forward to most, or kind of your I know you're training for 2024, but is there something that is more um or is that kind of the biggest thing on your mind? I know you're also being a dad. The crux of my question is it kind of your personal life or your career right now that you're trying to focus on the most?
Um, a lot of my personal life kind of transcends into my career
Mm,
or vice versa. So it's a lot of like intertwined in the same. Like I really try not to hide anything from anyone. I'm pretty much an open book. I'm very vulnerable, sometimes too vulnerable. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Um, so it really is like one and the same. Like my life, essentially trying to make my life my career and just trying to be able to provide, like we all are for the ones we love, and just being able to be self-sufficient. Like for my whole life I was scared because of being blind that I would never be able to have a job or make money, and I was also so, I can't sit in an office from or for a 9 to 5. Like I can't. I'll go crazy.
mhm,
And just trying to utilize the things in my life for, you know, I would really I just want to create a legacy that, even when I'm gone, things still continue to grow, or, people still are able to get inspiration or motivation from it. So I guess not wanting my brand to die with me, if that makes sense.
mhm. Absolutely. It seems like as you said, it's hard to really separate personal life from career completely for you
Yeah.
because I mean,
I'm a
you're
workaholic. My wife says it all the time.
mhm,
Um, I'm an insane. My work ethic is crazy at times.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
probably trying to divide the two. Like I make like we went on a honeymoon, and it was like she asked, she's like, "Can we please not post while we're on this honeymoon? Like I just want to be able to chill." And part of me was like, but there's gonna be such good stuff." And then it's like, you're right. And it was really healthy to do that. So really trying to make time for yourself, where you're not just trying to entertain others, because you can't make people happy if you're not happy yourself. So always having to like check in with your mental, the mental part of your life, and really acknowledging when things are bad, and when you're down. And it's important to have down days. Like it's if someone tells you they've never had a bad day in their life, then I'd be very worried, because there's probably a big breakdown coming up soon. So, or they're
something
just
terrible
full of
on the
crap.
way.
So really just, being honest with yourself and to who you are.
Mhm. Absolutely. And when like now that you are kind of in the thick of this, you're kind of dealing with personal life and career and figuring out how they all mesh together. I feel like you have a good perspective on things. So, kind of, what is your golden rule? Like, if somebody was thinking of starting a YouTube channel, or TikTok or whatever, like, what would you tell them as the most important piece of advice?
Um, One is your views and follower count does not define you as a person. Two, buckle up, because it's going to be a long road. You're going to have plateau moments. You're going to have moments where you drop followers. You're going to have moments where it could take years before you ever find that moment. And this is a very important golden rule. My wife told me this when I started, because I was making like content for a little while before anything ever happened. And it's really that a library of content is way more valuable than one single viral moment.
Mhm.
Because if you have a viral moment but you have nothing for people to go back and look through, it's like, okay, this video was cool, but I don't really have a reason to follow this person or follow along with what they're doing. So I think, realizing that it's not for nothing. Like, for example, like I just started this podcast about a year ago, Four Bad Eyes podcast, with my other blind buddy. And it's dawn. We both have big platforms, and you think it's just going to blow up right away, but it doesn't. You have to really put time and energy into it, and have like a 5 year plan. Like it's not going to happen overnight. It was just like wrestling. Like I thought it was going to be good overnight. It didn't happen. It took hours and hours and hours and weeks and months of just training nonstop, getting my butt whooped, and just not even scoring a single point. And you kind of have to have this big goal, and along the way set up these little micro goals. Like my goal was to win a tournament, but I couldn't even score a point, so I had to break my goals down to like I need to score a point first before I can even get to winning a tournament, let alone a match. So really, just I think it's important with your setting your goals, but also you got to set your goals high too. That's very important. But along the way, having micro goals to really hit, to have these little victories. Like if we could get a couple hundred downloads, like that would be awesome, type of thing, and like
Yeah.
really celebrating those victories as well. And not you can't compare yourself to the biggest creators. You can use them for inspiration, but you can't compare yourself because you're different. Everyone's different. Everyone's unique. And, you know, I used to get some days I still get caught up in like, you know, um, I need to be as big as Mr. Beast. It's like, no, that's not your path. That's not your journey. And, you know, everyone's different, and everyone has a different journey, but everyone has a story, and understanding that your story is just as important as the next person's.
Hmm. Definitely. And like how like when you have these thoughts of I want to be as big as Mr. Beast, I think anybody who has ever posted to any social media platform has had a thought kind of like that. Um like is there anything you tell yourself to kind of keep true to yourself? Like you've said that everybody's unique, they have their own unique story, but I think there can also be a pull to like not copy them necessarily, but there's like certain gold standard videos you could say that it's like, okay, well, if I have a if I start the video like this, if I cut to something new every 5 seconds, if I
Yeah,
like, these
absolutely. Like,
like how do you keep away from those things or maybe get inspired by those things but put your own twist on it?
yeah, like if I see a hook, meaning like the first 2 seconds of a video that grab you, it's like that's inspiring. It's like, oh, how could I use something similar? Like I started on the platform doing I'm blind and this is how and
Mhm.
then months later I see all these other creators that weren't doing that starting to do that. And I'm like, at first I was kind of annoyed. I'm like, that's my thing, And then I was like, oh, it's kind of flattering that people are trying to, they see me having success with my hooks and trying to use them for themselves. Um, so you know, imitation is flattering. I think it's really important not to compare and try to be that person because I'm not Mr. Beast. I'll never be Mr. Beast, nor do I want to be Mr. Beast. But
Mhm.
I want I can take nuggets of things, like for example, Mr. Beast does a lot of things where he'll give back, right? He'll buy things for people, give people money, all this stuff because he has a lot of it. But I don't have a lot of money, but I saw, that's really cool giving back with your platform. So I saw like, people have done so much for me in my life. I'm, you know, giving videos is great. Giving, your life, a glimpse in your life to people is awesome. But how can I actually like change someone's day or life for, whatever? So I was like, well, let me take, some money and buy someone a skateboard randomly. And it like taking a idea like that, but making it into your own it really it can help for like inspiration, like you see a good video and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I could probably do it this way or like differently. So like it's just like music, like anything anyone thinks they ever wrote, it's already in the library.
Mhm.
Like, but you're doing it your way. And it's you pull from these things. It's kind of like there was no roadmap for content creation. So studying how other people do it and seeing what works for them. And then, you know, taking little chunks from each person to kind of develop your own style, I think is important.
Hmm. Totally agree. It's like creative inspiration borrowing from a lot of different people and it creates your own voice in a way, and I
Yes.
think that is so important to know. And yeah, I'm really happy for you, dude. I feel like you're living your best life. You got your you have so many different things that you love to do, and you're doing it with an audience. And I know it can be pretty crazy running channels and kind of being in front
Yeah.
of people and wearing all these different hats. But hey, I feel like you're doing great, and I'm happy for you, for real.
Thank you. And I think one other thing to add to someone trying to start a channel is like people can see right through BS. Like if you're
Hmm.
not being genuine or who you true to yourself, then that really shows through. It might not show through in the first 50 videos, but then people start to catch on and it's like, all right, this is kind of hacky. Like you're not really who you say you are, or you're not being true to yourself or genuine. And I think it's really important no matter how many views you get, if you're the most successful content creator in the world, like always be true to yourself and never sell out, really.
Hmm. I think that is the perfect note to end on. Anthony, thanks for being here today. You are dope, and I'm stoked to see what the future holds for you. I think it's going to be grand.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor and pleasure. Thanks for reaching out.
Of
One
course.
love.
Yeah, indeed. So, with that, thank you so much for watching, everybody. You are awesome, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.